Hello everyone. In today's Cenozoic / holocene profile we're going to be doing is it's one of the most famous marsupials, and that is the Tasmanian tiger wolf, but it's commonly known as the thylacine, is an extinct carnivorous marsupial that was native to the Australian mainland and the islands of Tasmania and New Guinea. The thylacine was known as the Tasmanian tiger because of the dark, transverse stripes that radiate from the top of its back, and it was called the Tasmanian wolf because of its resembled a medium to large sized canid. The name thylacine is derived from meaning thylacos, meaning pouch, and ing, meaning pertaining to. The refers to marsupial pouch. Both sexes have pouch. The females use theirs for rearing young, and the males used theirs as a protective sheath covering the external reproductive organs. The animal had a stiff tail and could open its jaws to an unusual extent. Recent studies and anatomical evidence on its predatory behavior suggests that the thylacine was a solitary ambush predator specialized in hunting small to medium-sized prey. Accounts suggest that in the wild it fed on small birds and mammals. It was the only member of its genus, Thylacanus, the family Thylacidae, to have survived until modern times. It lived between the early Pleistocene to the Holocene. Its closest living relative are other members of Dasyamorphia, including the Tasmanian devil, from with its estimate to have split 42 to 36 million years ago. For its evolution, the earliest records of the modern thylacine are from the early Pleistocene, with the oldest known fossil record in southeastern Australia from the Calabrian age around 1.77 to 0.78 million years ago. Specimens from the Pliocene aged chinchilla fauna described as Thylacinus rostratilis by Charles de Vis in 1894 have in the past that's been suggested to represent Thylacinus cynocephalus, but have been shown to either have been coronal errors or ambiguous in their specific attribution. The family Thylacinidae includes at least 12 species in 8 genera. Thylacinids are estimated to have been split from their members of Dacylomorpha around 42 to 36 million years ago. The earliest representative of the family is Badgerus temporally from the late Holocene of River Slye in Queensland around 25 million years ago. Early thylacine were coral size, while the under 10 kilograms, 22 pounds. It probably ate insects and small reptiles and mammals, although signs of an increasingly carnivorous diet can be seen as early as the early Miocene in Wabulacinus. Members of the genus Thylacinus are notable for a dramatic increase in both the expression of carnivorous dental traits and in size with the larger species, and the two largest of this genus are Thylacinus potens and Thylacinus mulgeriani, both approaching the size of a wolf. In the late and early Holocene times, the modern thylacine was widespread, although never numerous throughout Australia and New Guinea. Despite its appearance of a canid, dog-like appearance, a classic example of convergent evolution, the thylacine showed many similarities to the members of the dog family Canidae of the Northern Hemisphere. Sharp teeth, powerful jaws, raised heels, and same general body form, since the thylacine filled the same ecological niche in Australia and New Guinea as canid did elsewhere. It developed many of the same features. Despite this, as a marsupial, it is unrelated to any of the Northern Hemisphere placental mammal predators. The only recorded species of Thylacinus, a genus that superfuncally resembles the dogs and foxes of the family Canidae. The animal was a predatory marsupial that existed on the mainland Australia during the Holocene epoch. It was observed by Europeans on the island of Tasmania. The species is known as the Tasmanian tiger for the striped markings on the pelage. Descriptions of the thylacine come from preserved specimens, fossil records, skins and skeletal remains, and black and white photographs and film of the animal, both in captivity and from the field. The thylacine resembled a large, short-haired dog with a stiff tail, which smoothly extended from the body in a similar way to that of kangaroos. The mature thylacine measured about 60 centimeters, 2.0 feet at in the shoulder height, and 1 to 1.3 meters, 4.3 feet, inches body length excluding the tail, which measured around 50 to 65 centimeters, 1 feet 8 inches to 2 feet 2 inches. Because the recorded body mass estimated are sent, it has been suggested that they may have weighed anywhere from 15 to 35 kilograms, 33 to 77 pounds, but a 2020 study which examined 93 adult specimens with 40 of the specimens' sexes being known argued that their average body mass would be 16.7 kilograms, 37 pounds, from the range of 9.8, 28.1 kilograms, 22 to 62 pounds. Based on volumic analysis, there was a slight sexual dimorphism, with the males being larger than females on average. Males weigh on average 19.7 kilograms, 43 pounds, and the females on average weighed about 13.7 kilograms, 30 pounds. The skull is noted to be highly convergent on those of canids, most closely resembling that of the red fox. The thylacine was able to open its jaws to an unusual extent to up to 80 degrees. Thylacine footprints could be distinguished from other native or introduced animals. Unlike foxes, cats, dogs, wombats, or Tasmanian devils, thylacines had a very large rear pad and 4 obvious front pads arranged in almost a straight line. The hind feet were similar to the forefeet but had 4 digits rather than 5. Their claws were non-retractable, and platter pad is a trilobal in that it exhibits 3 distinctive lobes, and it is a single platter pad divided by 3 deep grooves. The defective platter pad shape, along with the asymmetrical nature of the foot, makes it quite different from animals such as dogs or foxes. And the thylacine was noted as having a stiff and somewhat awkward gait, making it unable to run at high speeds. It could perform a bipedal hop in a fashion similar to kangaroos. But unfortunately, there is no video, black and white, to see if they could do that. Demonstrated at various times by captive specimens. Guller speculates that this was used as an accelerated form to motion when the animal became alarmed. The animal was also able to balance on its hind legs and stand upright for brief periods of time. Observers of the animal in the wild and in captivity noted that it would growl and hiss when agitated, often accumulated by threat yawning. During hunting, it would emit a series of rapidly repeated gurgle cough-like barks. Describe it like a yip yap, k-yip, or hop hop hop. though we have no recorded sounds for the thylacines back in the day. Probably for communication between the family pack members. It also had a long whining cry, probably for identification at distance, and a low sniffing, snuffling noise used for communication between the family members. Some observers describe it as having a strong and distinctive smell. Others described a faint, clean animal, odor, and some no odor at all. It is possible that the thylacine, like its relative, the Tasmanian devil, gave off an odor when agitated. Distribution and habitat. Thylacine most likely preferred the dry eucalyptus forests, wetlands, grasslands of mainland Australia. Indigenous Australian rock paintings indicate that the thylacine lived throughout mainland Australia and New Guinea. Proof of the animal's existence in mainland Australia came from a discarded carcass that was discovered in a cave in the Nullarbor Plain in Western Australia in 1990. Carbon dating revealed it was to be around 3,300 years old. Recently examined fossilized footprints also suggest historical distribution of the species on Kangaroo Island, the northernmost recorded record of the species from the Kiowa Rock Shelter in Chembou Province in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, dating to the early Holocene around 10,000 to 8,500 years before the present. In 2017, White, Mitchell, and Austin published a large-scale analysis of thylacine metagenomical genomes, showing that they had split into eastern and western populations of the mainland. Prior to the last glacial maximum, and that Tasmanian thylacines had a low genetic diversity by the time of European arrival. In Tasmania, they prefer the woodlands of the midlands and coastal heath, which eventually became the primary focus of British settlers seeking grazing lands for their livestock. The striped patterns may have provided camouflage in woodland conditions, but it may have been also served for identification purposes. The species had a typical home range of between 40 to 80 kilometers, 15 to 31 square mile. It appears to have kept its home range without being territorial. Groups too large to be family unit were sometimes observed together. And for its ecology and behavior, reproduction. The thylacine was an apex predator. though exactly how large its prey animals could be is disputed. It was a nocturnal and crepuscular hunter, spending the daytime, daylight hours in a small cave or hollow tree trunks, in a nest, twigs, bark, or fern fronds. It tended to retreat to the hills and forests for shelter during the day and hunted in the open heath at night. Early observers noted that the animal was typically shy and secretive, with awareness of the presence of humans, and they generally avoided contact with humans, though it occasionally showed inquisitive traits. At the time, much stigma existed in regarding to its nature. This is likely to be due to its perceived threat to agriculture. Historical accounts suggest that in the wild, the thylacine preyed on small mammals and birds, with water birds being mostly common. Recorded bird prey, with historical accounts of thylacine predating on black ducks and teals, with coots and Tasmanian native hens, swamp hens, herons, and black swans also being likely items of prey. The thylacine may have also have preyed upon the now extinct Tasmanian emu. The most commonly recorded mammalian prey was the red-necked wallaby, with other recorded prey including Tasmanian pademelon, and the short-beaked echidna. Other probable native mammalian prey includes other marsupials like bandicoots and bush-tail possums, as well as the native rodent like water rats. Following their introduction to Tasmania, European rabbits rapidly multiplied and became abundant across the island, with a number of accounts reporting the predation of rabbits by thylacines. Some accounts also suggest that the thylacine may have preyed on lizards, frogs, and even fishes. The stomach of a thylacine was very muscular, capable of distaining to allow the animal to eat large amounts of food at one time, probably in adaptation to compensate for long periods of time when hunting was unsuccessful and food scarce. In captivity, thylacines were fed a wide variety of foods, including dead rabbits and wallabies, as well as beef, mutton, horse, and occasionally chickens. There are reports of captive thylacines which refuse to eat dead wallaby flesh or to kill. and eat a live wallaby offered to it. But ultimately, it was proceeded to eat by having the small of blood from the fleshy killed wallaby put before its nose. And that's it for the thylacine. But don't worry, stay tuned for part 2 for its extinction. Like and subscribe, and see you later, guys.